You with Breakfast. I've been looking forward to this interview because it's about getting it right. Marketing campaigns can make or break a brand, but as some companies take social and political stance, how far is too far? This is a balancing act. The Auckland University of Technology's senior lecturer in marketing, Dr. Jessica Friedenberg, who is a wonderful guest on Breakfast, has been looking into companies pushing the envelope. She's here to share her findings with us. Dr. Friedenberg, you're actually doing research on this at the moment, aren't you? More then, huh?
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, good. We love having you on Breakfast. You're a great guest. Let's talk about, so Black Lives Matter, Me Too, there is a raising sense of social consciousness and of the obligation of corporations to be good corporations.
Yes.
How do they go about telling us they are?
You just took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, to give a bit of background, we're really just seeing this rise in social good, that it's entering the mainstream now. It's no longer just, B Corps and not-for-profits. We're now seeing a lot of sort of mainstream brands entering in this conversation. And it's driven by movements like Black Lives Matter, like Me Too, and just this increasingly sort of divided society, political unrest. All of that is sort of leading to these conversations that are happening. Even COVID is becoming increasingly sort of controversial in that space. So in our research, we look at how brands are aligning their messaging and practice, and that it is also linked to their inherent company values. So basically, when there is alignment between messaging, practice, and values, that's authentic in terms of the brand activism. But what we're more worried about is when there's messaging in the absence of the pro-social practice or the purpose driving that, and that can be perceived as woke washing.
Right, hold on. I want to come in there. So, so the messaging is not consistent with the pro-social practice. What do you mean by that? In other words, the company is saying one thing and doing another. Yeah, either saying one thing and doing another, or saying one thing and not necessarily having evidence that they're backing that up with their practices. So, the example with the Black Lives Movement most recently in the U.S., a lot of companies were getting called out for representation on their boards of different races. So they might be saying hashtag Black Lives Matter, putting the black square, but when you actually look internally, are those being reflected in their practices is sort of where this is moving now. So now consumers are being a lot more critical and asking more questions. So show us more. It's not just, when it first started, arguably Nike was one of the first big splashes with the Kaepernick campaign a few years ago now. We were kind of willing to accept the message, but now people are looking a lot more for that practice, and also a history of some sort of pro-social purpose and value that's driving that message. So it's not being seen as being opportunistic. Wow, that's fascinating. Okay, so no, it's great, isn't it? So when Nike go to market with a Black Lives Matter campaign, and boy, that was a striking campaign, but people are saying, okay, show us your boardroom. So this is not only about the marketing; it's about really conscious consumerism, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely bringing in the whole pro-social consumption, the whole, purpose-driven organization sort of movement that we're seeing right now, and that there needs to be this inherent consistency. And again, we argue in our research that there's a few things that are required, both the alignment between messaging and practice, but then it goes deeper than that there has to be, it has to be coming from a place of company purpose and value, or they need to be showing that they're moving towards adopting those sorts of purpose and values.
This is fascinating research. I want to talk about an example that really worked. Although this is not quite the same, because this was a sort of social good outcome from the outset. What's it called? Keep It Real Online? That brilliant ad where the porn actors come to the door, right? Boy, how good is that campaign? Or is it just me who has teenage children that thinks it's good?
No, and so what's happening there, it's interesting that that is sort of part of our research as well, that as this kind of continues and consumers become more aware and look to brands to engage in these ways, they kind of need to push the envelope in terms of how they're doing it, and sort of almost cause a little bit of surprise or an unexpected sort of element of their campaign. But the tricky point is it needs to be something that consumers don't feel threatened by. So in this instance, they arguably got that right, that they pushed the envelope. They used kind of a surprise element, but people weren't necessarily threatened by that. So it came off as being funny, as making us sit up and take notice. If brands act in ways that we expect, we might be satisfied, but we're not going to be delighted. It's not going to, make us sit up and take notice. And as the marketplace is increasingly cluttered amongst brands, they're trying to get their messages out. This is sort of a way to do it, but also it can go the other way. We saw the
Eco store.
The eco, exactly.
Yeah,
so that recall
clunk.
Didn't work so well. So basically, consumers felt threatened by the message. What's actually being sent? Is there something wrong with the product? The point was missed of that surprise and unexpected element. And so that arguably, instead of leading to customer delight, that led more to customer outrage. So that was sort of an unexpected, but in a bad way, as opposed to unexpected, but maybe in a good way that sort of helps us move our perceptions forward of that brand or of the cause that they're trying to present. And we're seeing it even with, brands can actually help move conversations forward. We're seeing that now with conversations around masks in New Zealand and brands engaging in that space. And if they are a brand that has a reputation for pro-social practice and they align messaging with how their actions are also coming across, they can actually help normalize, an important public health movement as well. So brands can move into these spaces. And yes, they also stand to make a profit, but we argue that brand activism, when done well and effectively, it can both have a positive effect for social change and also for business outcomes.
Dr. Jessica Vredenberg, who is a senior lecturer in marketing at AUT. What a joy it would be to be in one of your classes. Boy, oh boy.
Well, I'm back online, so I'm going straight from this to lecturing in the same spot. well,
we feel like we've had an insight into what that must be like. It's so good to have you with us. We look forward to that research being published. I really look forward to reading it when it comes out. It has, okay, can you send me a copy? I'd love, because I've got the notes, but I'd love to read the whole thing. Thanks.
Yeah, last Friday it went live.
AUT, Dr. Jessica Vredenberg, Senior Marketing Lecturer. Thanks so much.
Thanks.